think we already wasted enough time to, go back and forth with LinkedIn. We'll just basically kick in with some introductions. We have Natalia today, so but we're gonna do Natalia and Nat today. So just to make it a bit more distinguish between our two speakers. Okay, so let's start with Natalia. Please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jana. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. I don't have access to the chat because for some reason my YouTube doesn't want to work either. So nice to see you all. And thanks so much, Jana, for having me. My name's Natalia. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Graduated.io, if you haven't heard of us before. I've been in the talent space for over 9 years now, specifically working in the software engineering space to build up teams with those sorts of technical skills. Have a passion for diversity in tech as well. Really love everything networking, have been networking and have been on LinkedIn since I think 2009, where there was no one but myself posting on there at that point. And I'm really, really excited to have this chat with you all tonight. So thank you, Jana, for inviting me.
Perfect. Thank you, Natalia. And over to Nat.
Hi, everyone. My name's Natalie, but I will be Nat for tonight, as Jana mentioned, just to keep it really streamlined and distinct. Thanks so much for having me. I am a senior section manager and senior recruitment consultant at a bespoke company called Circuit Recruitment. So we specialize in all things tech recruitment. I, in particular, specialize in the software space. But, I think that my value that I add as a recruiter actually has a lot more to do with my actual involvement in a lot of organizations and quite a few community events that I work with on the side, and also part of work hours. So we actually sponsor a lot of tech meetups, which is a lot of how I do my networking. And we also do a lot of volunteering at companies like Her Tech Circle, which is great for diversity and inclusion. Similarly to Natalie, I have a passion in that area. I also co-organize the Melbourne Talent Meetup, which is how I met Jana, and work with a really great grad program called Holberton School. We put on lots of events for people who are, just looking for jobs, because you guys are the people that we want to help the most. But sometimes, especially in recruitment, you're the people that we struggle to help the most. So that's kind of my shtick. A lot of the work I actually do in networking is actually in person, ironically enough. But I think that, LinkedIn networking is definitely the future. Online networking will be a part of what we have to incorporate into our skill set. So I'm excited to have this chat with you guys as well.
Perfect. And that you already mentioned how important that networking bit at the moment. And look, it's kind of, my question, why? Why is networking particularly important for landing tech job? And we're talking about tech jobs today, and how it's compared to traditional job search. But before I let you answer this question, I actually gonna answer this question myself too, because I can see it from my perspective, especially when you're like smaller business. Now then you advertise a job with like all these AI generated resumes. You just get flooded with AI generated applications, and you just basically don't know who's real, who's not. So kind of like LinkedIn becomes that, little check that you like actually a real person, and you're not going to change your whole work history every time you need to rewrite your resume for particular application. So I hate to tell you guys, but I feel like LinkedIn has actually became even more important for job search than than it was before. I guess for those who was hoping that they can just customize their resumes and just keep sending them and think that's all good. I can just do this. But unfortunately, I think it's not the case. So I think that just over to you again. Like, what do you see? Why it's so important these days to network on LinkedIn compared just to like traditional job searches?
Yeah, Jana, I think you actually bring up some really good thoughts that I hadn't actually thought about myself. I think when I was thinking of an answer to this question, I was coming a lot more from the place of how competitive the job market has become. I guess AI is definitely one of those reasons where we're seeing a lot of a big uptick in the amount of people who are applying for roles. So I'm trying to tell people right now, if they imagine themselves in like a gigantic pile of CVs, thinking about how to distinguish yourself from the rest is becoming increasingly more challenging, because you guys would have noticed, if you are active on the market, that a lot of the time when you apply for a job, you'll see numbers that are really crazy, like there's 200 other applicants, right? If you're not one of the first few to apply, then you might get missed just purely because there's such a big pile, and you might get lost in that list of names. So a part of networking is, it's an analogy I like to tell people of, like, try and think about how you can take yourself from the middle of the list to the very top of the list. And a lot of that has to do with who you know, not what you know. We've all heard that said many a time. So it's really important to stand out and do things differently, change up your strategy. And because a lot of people are going down the same route of just doing an AI generated resume or the same old stuff, trying to find ways to reach out to people in a different way will put you ahead of the pack and maybe help you in a time where things are very, very competitive. And a lot of people are getting down and out because they can't find a job, and they're not seeing the results that they want. They're just getting ignored. That's probably because you're getting lost in that sea of resumes.
Yes, definitely. Natalia, anything to add from your perspective?
Yeah, so obviously I've worked in internal talent acquisition roles for the last 8 years, and like Jana was saying, LinkedIn for me is a pre-qualifying tool. And the reason that it is because, like Jana said, you can put anything you like on your resume, but I can't actually qualify you if I don't see that you've got the same thing on your LinkedIn. And the reason I say that is because if you have said that you've worked at a certain business for a certain amount of time, and then you've put that you've done a certain role, you won't tag that business and show that accountability and that confirmation in your LinkedIn if you know that it's not true. I hope you wouldn't anyway. And so it kind of reiterates what it is that you have actually done, and then gives me that sideline into your resume to know, yeah, I'm looking at something that's truthful. I'm looking at a document that is actually telling me exactly what this person has done, where they have worked, who they have worked for, and we'll come back to it. But this is why also recommendations on LinkedIn is really important, because that's validation for what you have done in your said roles. And you don't really get to put those names and faces into your resume because it is about you. So it's really nice as a pre-qualification tool to go. And we do this naturally now, I think, because, LinkedIn itself has got something like 950 million members worldwide. And it is the most comprehensive professional networking platform in the world. So of course we're going to go there. Because that's the place where we expect most people to be. So yeah, I think that would be in my mind, and especially when I've been reviewing lots of candidates and I have a really big pile, and like Nat said, if you don't get in there quick, you can end up at the bottom, and we try and go through the first lot of 50 if we can for each role, etc. You may get missed out. It's really important that you have a resume and a LinkedIn that is telling the same story, and there's no inconsistencies. Once you start showing inconsistencies, it starts to get a bit confusing, and then there's questions that are asked. So try and keep it as consistent as possible, but also we do use that as a qualifying tool. So just make sure that if you are applying for roles with your AI CV, that your LinkedIn matches the same too. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And if I could add one more thing, sorry, Jana, it also gives you access to opportunities and career growth and mentorship that a CV application can't. So, obviously today we're talking purely about applying for roles. But if you're networking on LinkedIn and building a network in that space, you might see a post that you could then engage with, that could then give you access to great mentors in the future. So it's not just about applying for jobs, it's about using it as a stepping stone to expand your network even further. And then opportunities will come up that you never even saw coming, which is imperative for really good career growth.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm trying, I guess, to keep our conversation today about the networking, particularly in LinkedIn, because I know there's so many things we can talk about LinkedIn and how to set it up and things like that. But let's really kind of focus on the networking bit today. We have a few more streams when we did like some LinkedIn profile reviews and things like that. So you guys can click through and have a look at some structure. But let's talk about that networking bit, because it's for a lot of people, it's also feel a bit doubting, especially if you don't have any existing network, you don't really know anyone, you register on LinkedIn and you're like, okay, so I need to do something here. Yes. And just, especially if you don't have connections, people more like not as willing to accept your connection request, because maybe, like at least when you have mutual connections, people more open to connect with you. So what are, I guess, some actionable ways to start building your network from scratch? So what would be your kind of top tips? Like when you're just starting out, maybe you haven't been active on LinkedIn, you get there and you want to start networking. Natalia, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing that I would do is connect with my colleagues. So wherever it is that I'm working or whatever it is that I'm doing, anybody that I'm really close to that I know I'm going to get an accepted connection request from, because we're either working together, we're collaborating on a project, or we're doing some volunteering together or anything like that, I would connect with the people that I actually know first and, let them know, hey, I'm new to LinkedIn. I'd love to have you on there. I'm trying to build my professional network, really excited to, kind of get into my career through this way. And I'd love to connect with you because I know you. Would you like to accept, etc.? That way. And then probably after that, I would strategically start to go to, or I would more likely add people that I've met in person first. Because like Jana said, if you don't have the numbers to be able to then continue your growth of your professional network online, most people might reject you, reject a connection request, or not understand why you're potentially reaching out to them. And we'll go through personalized messages later, but I think utilize with the people that you know first to start to build a base, and a really comfortable base, because those are people that know and that can genuinely vouch for you. And again, this all counts to your credibility towards your your profile and things like that. So I would go with first the people I know, or colleagues, or people that I've worked with, anyone in my educational year, or my teachers, or whoever, if I was studying. And then going into more of those face-to-face networking meetup groups, where I've made connections with people, I've had really good conversations. I've said, look, I'm growing my professional network. Would you like to be part of it? Can I add you? Those sorts of things. And once you start to get into the big numbers, and you've got a solid profile, and again, we'll go through it, you've been connecting in with industry, you're collaborating online, you're actually building a name and a presence for yourself in your personal brand, then you can start doing virtual connection requests. That's the way I would approach it.
Makes sense. Nat, anything to add to that strategy?
Yeah. I had a really similar answer prepared to Natalia. Starting by adding the people you know is the best place to start. I also think, don't be afraid to go through some people who are more personal friends rather than just professional friends. It's good to have a broad network out there. So, this is going to sound so lame, but add your mum and dad, add your family, add personal friends. They all have different connections that will then link you into places you might not never necessarily have thought of. So starting off there, and also it allows you to feel comfortable. You're still in your comfort zone there, and you can sort of start to exercise a little bit more discomfort with then, reaching out to people a bit more cold. An extra strategy, once you've sort of built up a little bit more of a professional network and you're feeling a bit more confident, would be then to start maybe strategically targeting people within companies you want to work for. So if you want to really, really apply it to a job search, and you're building your professional network for that purpose, start to make a list of some of the companies that you're really interested in, and then have a little look through the list of managers, maybe the list of hiring people in those spaces, and start to send out some really targeted messages and connection requests, and just sort of say, hey, and that sort of comes back to what Natalia was saying about making sure you have good context in the little window, or the window where you connect with people. Just say, hey, I'm looking to build my professional network. Facebook is a company I would really, really love to work with one day. I wanted to add you to my network so that I can build my brand within the company, and that sort of thing. And if you're still sort of struggling with your confidence there, then start looking at mutual connections. So once you're connected to somebody, if they are then connected to some people that you're interested to connect with, maybe message them and just say, hey, I noticed that you're, say if I really wanted to get to know Natalia, and I saw that her and Jana were connected, that actually shows up on LinkedIn as somebody that they're mutually connected. So I would then maybe message Jana and say, hey, I know that you know Natalia. Would you mind letting her know that I'm going to add her on LinkedIn, and maybe encourage her to accept, because I really want to get to know her a little bit, or be a part of her professional network. So there's some extra little strategies to sort of get you, once you're feeling a bit more confident, to get you to the next level.
And that's really works also, Nat. That's a really good example because, for example, if someone messaging me and just saying, oh, just connect me to, I don't know, the relevant connection, or please connect me with someone who has a job or something like this, that usually doesn't work because, but if someone actually went through my connection list and say, Jan, I've noticed you connected this, would you mind to connect me with this person? Most likely I have no problem to connect people if it's really specific and targeted. And also I think the one good one is connect to people who have similar career to you or like career you want to have. And also it's a good sort of segue to say, oh, look, I've noticed you've been working in this position and it's something where I want to progress my career. Would love to have a chat about your day-to-day and how you're finding and things like that. I find this is also reasonably soft touch to connect with people you don't know, so that people more often to reply and share their experience, and happy to help in this way.
If you look up a hashtag or like look up a topic in the LinkedIn search bar and start looking at people's posts, you might find that there are some people out there that are posting on a regular basis about a topic that you're really interested in. So say it's Java development because you're a Java developer, and you find that you're scrolling through the posts and you're seeing that there's one person who's really posting about Java a lot. That's somebody you want to be connected to. You want to see their content, maybe want to take them for a coffee and get to know them or understand a little bit more about their market through their lens. So that's a really good idea, Jana. I agree.
Yeah, perfect. Mark has a question that I think it's the most common question that it comes to connection on LinkedIn. I don't know what the panel thinks about this, but I always personalize connection requests explaining why I would like to connect and the thoughts. Look, sorry, I'll jump in myself again. I actually have a really, non-popular opinion about it. I actually less care if people send me personalized connection request or not. I usually still click to their profile and quickly scan through their profile to make sure, like, do we have something kind of in common? Have I met them and things like that? So I think the nice LinkedIn profile actually prompt me to connect more than personalized message. Because, it's a really kind of like stereotypical example. If someone connecting me from overseas and it has like lead generation SEO all over their profile,
yeah,
I'm probably not going to connect. Even their personalized messages is amazing. Yeah. So I think I kind of I wouldn't say that personalized messages make massive difference for me, but I know that for some people it is quite important. What are your thoughts? Natalia, maybe start with you.
I'm similar to you, but I think I do enjoy it when someone has taken the time to write me a note about why they want to connect, because it seems that they've it shows me that they've put effort into why they want to connect with me. But that said, I do also, and I am spammed every day with virtual assistants and lead gen people and, all these sorts of things that send me, these warm intro notes, but I can also see by their titles what they are and what they do. So normally I'll just reject it if I know that it's going to be spam for me, because I don't want to add those sorts of things into my network that are not going to add value. However, if someone wants to drop me a request and then follow up with a message after, that's fine too. And I will always check out their profile first before I accept them, just to make sure, are you in the same industry, or do we have common interests or synergies, or, anything like that? Am I able to help you? Are you able to help me, type of thing? So yeah, I guess I'm a little bit on the fence. I think it's nice. I do enjoy getting a nice warm intro. And I think it's nice when people actually have taken note of my profile and have messaged me and said, oh, Nat, I'd love to connect with you. I saw that you work at Deloitte. I really want a career there. I'd love to talk to you about how it works in terms of recruitment process. That's so nice. You've taken time. You've read my profile. You see where I've worked. You know who I am. You haven't copy and pasted that same intro message to loads of people. And it's really personalized. So I guess the more personalized, the better, in terms of if you want to make that high impact for value. But yeah, it's a nice thing, but I don't think it's completely needed if you are actually going to follow up on that and have a good conversation with them anyway.
Yeah, I don't think any of my thoughts are any more groundbreaking than anything we've just discussed. I fully agree with you with all of that.
Nat, probably a bit more question for you in terms of, being a recruiter. How do you feel when people, constantly approaching you? And I guess how people, like, what people stand out, you know what I mean? Because people, can imagine, like, people message you like all the time and probably have a personalized messages and things like that. What are your thoughts of, like, I don't know, best practice about connecting with recruiters?
Yeah, look, you're asking me the tough questions because I feel like in order to answer this question properly, I probably have to reveal the skeletons in most, agency recruiters' closets, which is surrounding the fact why you probably struggle to get responses out of people that work in agency, right? And it's not because we don't care usually. I mean, I think there are some people out there that, only care about one thing, but I think realistically it's actually just a time factor. And the fact of the matter is, if you understand that from an agency recruiter's perspective, we're constantly, like you said, Yana, being spammed with messages. Can you help me find a job? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? A lot of the time, the people that reach out to me are not people I can place straight away. They might be people I can place maybe, 3, 6, 12 months down the future when I have other roles come in. But right now, I'm always on the lookout for the exact right type of person that I'm looking for. And the people in my periphery just create a lot of noise. I have a personal, it's more of a personal thing where I don't ever want to leave anybody unresponded to. That's my personal way I want to operate. A lot of agency recruiters will not have that personal way of operating. So you'll find that, you might get ignored here and there, but please don't take it personally. It is not because they don't care about you or they don't want to place you or they don't think you're worthy of a placement. It's usually a time factor. We've got so much going on and we are trying to reply to so many people and keep so many people up to date. We're juggling so many plates. It's very hard for us. Personally, how I usually respond to people in those situations is, look, can you send me your CV and I'll keep an eye out on the market for you? That way, I've seen your message, I've seen your profile, I will keep you in mind for the future. But to be honest, you are very unlikely to get placed straight away just from a messaging a recruiter, like an agency recruiter. The value of having agency recruiters in your network will be from a visibility perspective. Hopefully, if you're posting that you're open to work and they're doing a search, they will just so happen to come across you in the right time, right place. But as far as expecting a result straight away from an agency recruiter, I will just be honest, it's a super unrealistic expectation. Most of the time when you reach out to people like me, we're not going to be able to place you straight away, but we will want to have you in our network. We will want to keep an eye out on your profile. And we will want to see when you are open to work and see if we can, the divine timing is there and we can match you up with the right job. So it's a really good thing for people to be aware of, Jan. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of that building that connection with recruiters. And I also think different recruiters would have a different preferred communication. Because some recruiters probably never reply on LinkedIn just because they slam there. They prefer people to call them or like send them email. And some recruiters, vice versa, never pick up the phone call, but prefer to reply on LinkedIn. So it's also kind of like, building connection with the few recruiters that in your industry and finding like their preferable way to connect as well. And Natalia, what about like hiring managers and, when it's more like talent acquisition team? Is there any way to approach them and network with them?
One thing I really dislike, and I'm just going to say my pet hate first of all before I go into this, because talent is obviously a little bit different to recruitment, and I'm happy to explain a little bit why. But one of my biggest pet hates is when I get messages that people either just send me their resume and then say, "Can you help me find a job?" or they send me a message saying, "I've applied to this job. Can you please call me? I haven't heard back from you." Now, first of all, a talent leader role is very different to an internal recruitment role or, whatever they call them now, talent acquisition managers, whatever. Completely different. Like I would be working with my team, but I would be working on workforce planning. I'd be working on budgeting. I'd be working on building personas and collateral for marketing and all those sorts of things. So talent acquisition managers are probably like the best people to go to because they actively hire, whereas anyone in talent leadership roles are probably more hands off and work on really hard to hire for roles. However, if you do want to connect with them, and I'm not saying don't connect with me, I'm saying yes, do. I know how many roles my team have on. but come with purpose and come with a way of, hey, I've been following your company for a while. I love that you do this sort of stuff. I have put in an application for a role with you. I understand that you might be busy. I would really, really like it if you could let me know there's a time to have a chat with you about this, because I'm really, really fond of this sort of environment, this sort of tech stack. This is what I come with, whatever it is that you want to ask. But you've shown that you've connected with us, you follow us, you know, you're part of the community, you genuinely care about the brand and the business. Not like, hey, I want the job, can you let me know you haven't replied to my message? There's probably like thousands of people that will message me that same thing, and I'm not going to reply to any of them, right? Because they're going to be sat in my ATS anyway, and my team will deal with it when they get there. So if you have purpose in your message and you reach out and you say, hi Nat, you know, I really hope to connect with you. I've been following X company, graduated for a long time. I really, really like the roles that you've got on. I'm specifically interested in this because my background is X. I'd love to have a chat with you if you're free about it, or your team. Could you divert me to the right person? Here's my information. And I've just included my resume just in case. Because the thing is, I'm more likely to then just quickly open your resume and have a quick look and then tell my team, hey, this really great person just came through. They're probably in our ATS. Could you just give them a buzz for me? Because you've actually gone to this effort of explaining why we should actually take a moment to look at your resume, why you care about the role, and why you're reaching out. Because when we're working internally against the brand, for us, it's about culture fit a lot of the time. It's not about ticking the technical boxes. Anyone can learn their skills, but they can't be taught the value add of all the cultural ways of the business, right? If you match, you match. And so it's one of those things where a lot of the time, opportunities and hires have gone to those that best fit in terms of cultural fit and mindset rather than tech stack. And a lot of people would be shocked by that, you know, because you think, well, why put a JD up if, you know, you want all of this stuff done or whatever? But the people with the right attitude can learn the right skills as long as they have a foundation to work on and build on, right? So you've got to remember that too. And that really comes into our minds quite a lot when we're having messages sent to us. And if they have meaning and purpose and value, I'm all for opening that message and getting you to the top of the queue. Absolutely no problem at all. You know, and sometimes even apologize if somebody hasn't had any feedback, or, you know, because you'd like to think you've got a really good process that allows everybody to at least be acknowledged in the application process. So, you know, I've even apologized to people that have said, no, I applied and 3 weeks ago, no one's called me. No problem. I'll get on it today because you've shown me the value and you've showed that you really care and that you want to be part of this business. And so I think that's how to approach an internal. But similar to Nat though as well, like, you know, we do have a lot of noise and there is a lot going on internally, the same as externally. We have the same roles, we're still recruiting. So to cut through that noise, it has to be high value, because at the moment there is just too much noise in the market for us to be able to just reply to a standard message.
And what I like about the answers to this question in particular is that we've kind of lifted the lid off to you guys of the mentality of the recruiters you're reaching out to. And I think what happens is so often there's this misunderstanding. You know, you guys are frustrated because we're not replying, but we're frustrated because we're inundated and we can't get around to replying to everybody or giving everyone the attention that they need or deserve. It's frustrating for us too. So I think reminding you guys that we're just human beings who are trying to do our best and get around to treating everyone with respect, and a lot of the time that looks different for everybody depending on how they operate and how they want to be. But you know, just understanding our mentality will help you tweak the reach out to just go from just like everybody else. Because once again, if you end, it's like the same analogy with the CVs. If you're 1 in 500 messages that looks exactly the same as everyone else, you're still going to end up in the, you know, lost pile. Whereas if you're doing something a little bit different, and like I really loved Natalia's answer around how to phrase that connection, that's what's really going to add the most value to you in your job search for sure.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to what Nat said as well. Like, you've also got to understand that, and I know it might be sidelining a little bit of networking, but I just really want to call this out, because this highlights why networking is so important. This year alone, competition has increased by 30% in the tech industry for any role. And it has taken between 6 to 12 months to secure any role, which is 4 months longer than the average person to be able to get an opportunity. Now, put yourselves in a recruiter's perspective where unemployment has gone up by 12% this year, and there are way more people looking for opportunities than there are jobs. those people will automatically gravitate towards us. And so imagine sitting in that seat and knowing there are thousands of people that are applying to you every single day, following up every single day. All definitely deserve a job, but it's about how do we find that right person in the crowds that has shown that value add in terms of, you know, that connection, and then making sure that you're networking proactively and not reactively. You know, you can add every recruit in the country if you want, doesn't mean you're going to get a job quicker. You need to add the right recruiter or the right TA or the right hiring manager, or, you know, whatever it is that you've got to do, and have a little strategy. Like Jana was saying, you know, what we said earlier about how would you start to build your network? How would you start to add people? Have that strategy, have those reach out strategies, make sure you're following the right people. But then also when you are connecting, you're adding value to them, but you know that it's actually a place where you're really interested in going, and not through just, hey, I'm looking for a job and I just need you to help me. You know, there has to be a value add there. And that's the numbers that we're dealing with this year.
And I think it's important to mention that it's not about all just adding recruiters and hiring managers and talent acquisition team. So I think that's also important to think that networking on LinkedIn is definitely not only about adding every talent acquisition and recruit out there. So it's also as I mentioned, it's thinking about the company you want to work, adding people from this company. And maybe do you have any particular examples or strategy? Like, for example, I know if I'm applying for a job in the company and I try to add few people from this company, not particularly talent acquisition team, but I would add people and ask them, like, you know, I've just applied a job in your company. What do you think? Like, do you enjoy working there? How is the culture there? And ask them more questions about their role, and having conversation. Not just, you know, messaging, hey, can you send my resume to the talent acquisition
the hiring
team?
manager.
Yeah, to the hiring manager.
It's hard because you don't want to be taking up too much of that person's time either. And that's what really comes down to sometimes, is that our time is super valuable. You know, we spend so much time on the phone to people, we spend so much time flicking through CVs and trying to make sure that we're on top of everything. So if you're going back and forth with a recruiter as well, and, you know, that can also be really time consuming for them, and that might be where they end up tuning out. So I do love that advice, Jana, but I guess to be played devil's advocate is, you know, once again, you might hit a bit of a wall with it. Because, you know, we're such time poor people. We struggle with that kind of stuff. So going back and forth with you on LinkedIn is going to probably be unfortunately, if I'm being honest, a low priority for us.
I think also when you're going between recruiters and professionals and in targeted businesses that you want to work, etc., you know, one thing that I would always look out for, especially if I'm looking for a job right now, I think I would look out for hiring managers, and I'm not talking hiring managers in HR, I'm talking hiring managers, CEOs, heads of departments, whatever, and looking out for reshares of posts that they've done on jobs that have been posted by the company. Some of them also have the purple banner, like the hiring banner, you know, and all those sorts of things. Now, it's not necessarily they're going to be able to take your application, take you through the process, because they'll pass you through to the right recruiter or the right team, or, you know, the right link to their career site or whatever. But if you really do want to network with purpose with these hiring managers, and you want to get yourself seen and heard, it is a numbers game also. It's a bit like a sales pitch, right? If you call the person once and they say no, call them again, they say no. Most people, 98% of people will give up on the second try, whereas those people that make the 8th call will land what they want, right? So it's a bit like, don't hassle people, but if you see someone with a purple banner, you see that they're resharing jobs and they're clearly hiring for their team, go and have a look at the business profile if you don't already know it. Go and have a look at the team, see who's working in there, see what the jobs are, look at the career page, and then drop them a message. And, you know, like, hey, Jake, CTO of Macquarie, I see that your team is hiring for tech consultants. I've got a background in X. I'd be really keen to have a chat with you or your team about this role. Could you point me in the right direction? He'll be like, yeah, sure, here, email my recruiter. You haven't said, have you got time to have a chat with me? Here's my resume. Can you look at this? They are time poor people as well. You know, executives are time poor people. Hiring managers are time poor people. But just a really quick, short message like, I love your company. I love what you're doing. I see you're looking for tech consultants in your team. I've got a background in X. Can you point me in the right direction? I'd love to have a chat with your talent team or your recruitment team or whatever it is. And that person can immediately go, yeah, email this person. You might even just get the shortest reply, but you'll get something. because you
So you make
haven't
it
asked
easy
for
for
too
them.
much. You made it really easy for them. And ultimately their goal is to get good talent.
Yep.
So, you know, if you've dropped into their inbox and they happen to be online and you've got a really short, sweet message that they can quickly reply to, that's amazing. Like, you know, that's the type of responses that they can actually achieve, rather than you sending them a good old 3-paragraph, add your resume and what you did on Sunday with your mum. They don't want to read that. Like they just want quick results. You know, because that's where the business is going. So try and put your business acumen hat on as well when you're doing these sorts of things, and understand from a perspective of, you know, time versus effort versus everything else, and try and make it easy for them, and you'll find you'll get a lot more results that way.
And that just gave me a really interesting idea of something else I would love to tell you guys about, a great way to sort of maybe build rapport with the people who are already in your network, maybe some of the ones you've already connected with and you're seeing them you know, post on LinkedIn really regularly. I know we all sort of meme on the idea of like, you know, what it's like to work to comment on LinkedIn, and a lot of people like make, I don't know if you guys have seen like the funny Instagram reels of people making fun of what everyone behaves like on LinkedIn, and it's like if you were behaving in real life the way you do on LinkedIn and everyone's doing this satire around, you know, like, oh, good job, so glad to see you've got this promotion, blah, 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 blah. I know that everybody memes on that, but the reason why that is the case is because what people are doing in those scenarios is they're actually building rapport with the people that are in their network. So I know that we're talking a lot about, you know, expanding the network, but it's also really important to nurture the people that are within your network. So once you're already connected with them, the reason why we do all of this, you know, like, you know, lame commenting on each other's posts, it's like that for a reason. It's because we're trying to build up the people that are already in our network, build a rapport with them, get them to recognize us, because, you know, the people that are already in your network, say you do actually get a couple of really good hiring managers like CTOs or engineering managers in your network, the likelihood of them posting about certain things on a regular basis, usually these people are pretty active in the community, and if they've seen you've popped up in the last couple of posts going, oh, really love what you're doing here, or yeah, thanks so much for sharing this was super insightful, then your name, when it pops up in their inbox, they're much more likely to give you the time of day. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Yeah, and just simply even share their content.
Yeah,
I always notice, like, if someone watching my live stream and they share my live stream, and if that person reached out, I would always remember that, oh yeah, this person actually attended the live stream and they shared it to their network and they commented, and I'm most likely to reply again. So it's that sort of communication. And also we need to remember that networking is also long-term game. So I always try to remind people, it's not like, oh my God, I need a job, I go network. And like you have first event you're coming, or like first message you're sending, oh, I lost a job, I need a job, or something. So thinking about that long-term network strategy where you can connect with people from the company, you know, connect with the contents and the messages. And when, like, in a few months and they post a job, this is like your moment, you know, like, I've been following you for a while, I've noticed you post a job. This is the moment that you can message, not only when you saw that job post and suddenly like, hello, that's me. I want a job. So that's not the true networking piece.
Yeah, because also on your point, Jana, like, networking is your part-time job on top of your full-time job. So if you don't keep doing it and keep nurturing the network that you want to get you where you need to be as well, and also help others too, then there's no point doing it, because you absolutely won't get the results when you do need it. Like, I'll give you a prime example. I've actually only ever applied to 2 jobs in my whole life. And I have never had my open to work banner on, because I don't think it existed back then when I was applying for those 2 jobs. But anyway, I never had it on. I've never, ever, ever, apart from my first job in Australia, have I ever applied for a job after, because I always got my roles through the people I knew in my network. Those people would call me and say, Nat, we're hiring at X company. Would you like to come? Be my friend, right? I told them about you. You should come and work here because X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, Nat, you know, we're potentially going to be looking for people in the talent space, and we'd love to have a chat with you if you're interested. And I have actually never, ever applied for my jobs, ever, apart from the first ever one that I got when I landed in Australia. And that's only because of my network. It's my biggest asset. I could not be without it. I would be nobody if I didn't have my network. Those people support me every day. Like I try to support them every day. We're there, we connect, we facilitate introductions, we help each other out on webinars like we're doing it now. Yana helped me out, Nat's helped me out so much with all sorts of different things like beer ops events and volunteering. We would be nothing without our networks. And so then what you want is, your goal is that if at those points of time that you're looking for an opportunity, or you're struggling or whatever, you can just put a message out, or you can drop your friend Nat a message, or Yana, and say, hey Yana, like I've been part of your community, following your businesses, you know who I am, whatever, I'm looking for a new role, would you like to have a chat? You've got such a high chance of landing a job over anybody else who hasn't done that work. And I just think that a lot of people, and like you said, Yana, that they'll go to it when they want to go and find a job, and it's not going to work out that way. So you have to just consistently, just, you know, it's not a lot of effort. Like if you do it a little bit in the background as well, you don't have to go for gold like us recruiters do, but like, you know, you can do little bits and bobs and just show up, and even online, sharing content, purposeful content in the industry of people that you follow, that you really have synergies with, you know, resharing their posts, connecting in with their webinars, whatever it is that you're doing to support them. Those sorts of things really stand out, and we never forget those people, do we?
Yeah.
I'm sure us girls on the call, we're like, we remember certain people who will always share our posts, connect in with us, congratulate us, share our woes, you know, all those sorts of things. So it is really, really important.
It's just think of it as another social media platform. I think so many people, once again, because of that LinkedIn meme, we all have this like LinkedIn's so lame in our head, but you actually have to treat it as consistently as you would treat a TikTok account or an Instagram account. Regularly update it with relevant information, keep it up to date, interact with people via that. We have to sort of stop that stigma of like LinkedIn is just this lame place where people just go to, you know, say silly things to each other. It's actually really, really important. If you see the value in it, you'll be able to leverage it, because the people who are like-minded like yourself and are on there doing that, they all have the same mentality, and they're the ones that the birds of the feather. They're the ones who flock together, give each other the right opportunities. You know, people like Nat who don't have to apply for jobs. It's all because she's in with those kinds of people who are thinking the same way, building their networks in the same way, adding value to their networks by posting regularly and interacting with each other's posts, that sort of thing.
No, 100%. And we have just few questions and a few comments and questions, but, you know, people talking about grabbing for coffee. Mark said he had a great time catching up with recruiters for coffee and sharing the stories. And actually, there's a question from Dory about like, oh, is it, you know, too close for Christmas and there is no jobs? But that's exactly the point. Yes, maybe there is no jobs and probably no one going to hire till February. But this is like your 2 months of networking and building this connection and taking people for coffees and sharing their posts and commenting on their profiles, because then they advertise in February. You already did all the prep work and already connected with the people from the companies you want to work for. Rahul has actually quite specific question.
I like this question.
Any specific LinkedIn groups or community that you recommend tech professionals join to increase visibility and access opportunities?
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, so literally more than you could ever imagine. All you have to do is go up into the search bar and type in whatever it is what you're interested in. So for me, you know, if I was starting out my career in Java development or data engineering, I'd type in the LinkedIn search bar that, and then underneath it, you'll notice there's like some tabs there that's like all people, jobs, posts. Click on the groups, and then automatically it's just going to come up with a bunch of groups on LinkedIn that are full of like sometimes hundreds of thousands of members, and those members will be regularly posting in those groups. So you can go in, you can join those groups, you can, you know, be notified when there's posts, and, you know, start networking. It's a little bit more of a warm environment because the people that are posting in that area and commenting in those spaces are usually people like us who are trying to build their networks, who are trying to add value to the community, and they'll be a lot more open to, you know, chatting, talking, maybe going out for a coffee, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and there are also events as well. I mean, Nat will tell you, because, you know, between Nat, Yana, and myself, I can't even tell you the amount of events every year. But, you know, there's like places that you can go to, like beer ups. There are other community events that run meetup groups. There's lots of software meetup groups, IT meetup groups, Gen AI meetup groups, ML meetup groups. It depends where you are as well. So have a look in your local area too. Also, because you're building a connection with people who have the same thoughts and values and you know, things that they want to share in that same industry and community with you. You have those things in common, and that's really nice to kind of build up your tribe too. You know, you're networking with people who are in your professional network and you want to connect with them, but you're also then going out and being visible in the industry, you know, to potential hiring managers or recruiters or people that can help you get roles and opportunities, connect you in, whatever. There are a myriad of tech groups actually that are available. So you can do LinkedIn, there's meetup.com as well, and then obviously the major events as well, which are posted, that should all have LinkedIn pages too. Yeah, and what I would suggest though is don't get overwhelmed by committing to too much and then not being able to keep up with everything, because it is very hard, and we're in a very digital native society where everything is content driven online. So you need to be careful to not overwhelm yourself, because it could be a really big black hole in there. So just go and choose the ones that you know you really enjoy the content of, which I think Nat said earlier. You'll enjoy the content of, you can connect with, like Jana said, you know, you can reshare or be part of that group, and that you'll actually feel like you're part of that community, rather than trying to follow like 15 because they all tick the box, and then being so overwhelmed that you actually don't achieve anything. So I think it's more consistency is key with smaller steps if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed with networking, because it can be quite a big thing. And then just, you know, showing your presence in those smaller groups to begin with, if that's where you're going to get your confidence from first up.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe starting a bit broader, but then narrowing it down to the few where you actually can build these connections. And you know, James saying James is always here. We go. I'm gonna acknowledge James. He's always here every Wednesday watching the live stream. You know, then you know some people who always rock up. And I know that I always reply to James' messages because I know he's always here, always watching the webinars. Thank you, James. And
that's the consistency. That's exactly what helps you with building your network. That consistency. So,
Jana remembers James.
Always. And there's a question from Ramachandra, and please share ideas of recommendation for finding a job in Australia for someone residing outside of Australia but holding Australia PR. I guess we're talking about LinkedIn networks, so let's just kind of stick to the topic. But in reality, probably the strategy will be the same. You're still connecting with the people, you're still engaging in the content, you're sharing content, you don't just drop your resume into the messages. Anything else you can recommend to Ramachandra that maybe we didn't mention?
I would just say, first off, be really honest about your situation. I've worked with a lot of overseas candidates. I've worked with also people who don't have Australian PR and getting their visas ready to migrate over to Australia. Just be really honest about your situation, your time zone, where you're working. Don't lie about where you are. A lot of people do that, and then it gets very confusing and it doesn't look good, and you know, kind of sets a bad tone. So if you're really honest about where you are, your future aspirations for moving back, what you're looking for, and then using all these tips that we've spoken about to be able to get in front of the right people. And I think, you know, obviously consistency is key, especially if you're outside of Australia. It's hard enough for the people in Australia. So even if you're outside of Australia, you know, it can still be difficult, but it's actually not impossible. You know, I believe there's a job for everybody. You just got to find it, and it's got to be divine timing, right place, right time. So just follow the tips and just be really honest about your situation as well, time zones, etc. And I'm sure if you meet that right company, you know, the synergies will talk for themselves.
I think it's a bit of a numbers game when it comes to this kind of stuff, because obviously in this high competition market, you will be up against a lot of people who have local experience, which is the classic cop-out excuse that most people will probably give you these days, is like, oh, we need someone with local experience. I can imagine that becomes extremely frustrating over time. But like Natalia said, there is a job for everybody out there. It's just a matter of you getting in front of the right people. So unfortunately, there's no magic pill. It is going to be a little bit more of a grind for you. And, you know, you might have to reach out to more people in order to make it click, but eventually it will, and just stay positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really cautious about the time. We're already getting to 55 minutes of our stream, and I know it goes like really quickly, especially when you're having fun. We might have like a time for really quick one more question because we started tiny bit later with the LinkedIn issues. But before I'll take the last question, I want to do the announcement for next week. And while I'm doing announcement for next week, the exciting bit. Natalia and Ned can go through the comments and choose someone for the virtual coffee chat with you. And guys, here's a network opportunity. People who rock up to my live streams always have this opportunity to network with the speakers as well. So anyway, next week, 20th of November, we're gonna talk, and have a buzzing AI topic, of course, like everyone talks about AI at the moment, so we have to. We're gonna talk about emerging AI jobs in 2025 and next career opportunities. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear that AI taking the jobs, and AI definitely will take some of the tasks, like there is no doubt about it, but it also creates new jobs as well. So and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next week, 20th of November. So what actually coming up in 2025, and maybe with some, jobs that we haven't heard about yet, So it's like every year some new title popping up. I already saw the title of AI architect, haven't seen that one before. So that's a new one for me. So I'm sure there will be quite a few of those coming up. Okay, so ladies, have you choose your virtual coffee partner from the comments? Nat, who did you choose?
Yeah, Oh, wait, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
We're both Nats. See, we knew this would happen eventually.
Eventually, we were good the whole
agreed.
time.
There is one Natalia, one Nat. So remember,
I'm pretty proud of us, Nat, because I feel like we've gone through this whole thing not speaking over each other by like so good. Sorry. You go first, Natalia.
Oh, okay. Because she said Nat and I just answered.
Yeah.
Yes, well done, us. I'm happy to have a chat with Jacob if he wants to have a chat, coffee chat, and we can talk about how he can continue his networking even after he's got his job, and continue to nurture that as well for future.
That's actually a really good point. And I think we haven't kind of touched on, I'm just really quickly mentioning it, the networking within your company. Like if you're joining a big company, you can really add all these people on LinkedIn too. And it's the easiest way to stay in touch as well. The company email address will change, but if you connect with your colleagues and ex-colleagues on LinkedIn, they're there. And sometimes you're joining massive companies. If you join Telstra, you already know half of Australia. So,
yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is definitely networking opportunities. No one stop you to go and just add all your colleagues on LinkedIn. It's not that creepy. I don't think it's creepy. I think it's totally fine. Just join the new company and add everyone from that company on LinkedIn. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's overkill, I don't know, but I'm definitely doing it all the time. I'm like, I joined. Hi, everyone.
Amazing. For myself, I really liked Rahul Khatri's question about, I thought he was thinking outside the box around, the communities that he, can join. So I love that kind of creativity. That's exactly the way you should be thinking, in like the kind of way that you should think in order to build up your network. So I would love to have a virtual catch up with you, Rahul.
Perfect. Great. I'll make sure I'll connect you guys on LinkedIn. And I think we just want to finish this live stream just with the last tip, maybe something we didn't mention, or just kind of one last inspirational tip. And I do have one actually to mention. I think sometimes when you network on LinkedIn, you should just stop overthinking. I think a lot of people just really kind of overthink and think like, oh, should I connect? Should I not? What if I connect and they don't reply? If they don't reply, so what? People don't reply to me all the time too. And sometimes I message them in a month and say, hey, just following up, trying again. I offered you to be speaker last month and haven't heard from you. And they're like, oh, sorry, I just, didn't have a chance to reply, or something happened, or message just went to the unread. So, don't worry if someone doesn't reply. Never take it personally. And as Annette said, sometimes it is a bit of a number game too. So you shouldn't get upset that you send someone 5 messages and they didn't reply. Maybe they don't even check LinkedIn. So I would not get discouraged.
Yeah.
Nat, over to you for your last inspirational tip.
I think, oh my God, I kind of want to steal yours though, like, because that's really the perfect mentality. I think just stay positive about it, because the right thing will click. It is a bit of a numbers game, and so much of a job search is out of your control. I think that's a really important thing to do. So many people get really down in the dumps and they blame themselves, or like they're worried about so many things, and jobs are so tied to our self-worth. So I think just don't let the negative thoughts get you caught up in it. There's so many reasons why somebody might not have responded to you. There's so many reasons why that person might have rejected your connection request. It's not personal. It's just LinkedIn.
100%. Natalia?
Yeah, I would say focus on giving, not getting. Because I think when you do focus on that and you approach it with a values-driven mindset, where you can share insights and resources and connect with people and help them out. It might be even just sharing their webinar. Like Jana, you might share Jana's webinar for socials and get her more RSVPs. You might come along. You might share some content that's really valuable. It's about building genuine connections. It's not about getting something out of it. It's a long-term commitment, right? You need to go in with a values-focused mindset, and always the givers will end up with the funnel turning around, and all of that good will always come back to you. So you've got to nurture all that good. So yeah, just go in with that giving mindset, not getting mindset.
Perfect way to finish today's live stream. And then James reminded me about the tech walk. Guys, the tech walk is actually scheduled for this Sunday at 10 a.m. But it's the forecast looking really not promising for Sunday. It's like 10 millimeters of rain. So I'm actually considering to rescheduling it for next weekend. Apologies if you're really looking forward to it, but I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll go to BOM tomorrow, check the millimeters, and I'll make the post tomorrow if we're going ahead this Sunday, or we will have to push it to next Sunday. So, but I am really hope to see everyone, and I'll be back maybe this weekend, maybe next weekend. Anyway, thank you again, ladies, for joining me. It's been great. A lot of comments, a lot of thank you coming your way. Thank you. And see everyone next week.
Thank you. Bye.